upstate New York. Roddy Valente. Good morning, Roddy.
Good morning, Seth. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I think we all are. It's a little close this morning, but it beats upstate.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be a great day of racing as well. We'll talk and get some of your ideas on this afternoon in a few minutes. But before we do that, just wanted to go back and show a race. Speaking of New York, Aqueduct this past Friday, it was Stone Supplier winning one of your horses. We wanted to show that just within the past few days. Chalk up another W, check mark in the W column. Stone Supplier wins, and as the name would indicate, Bustin' Stones, your homebred sire. We've talked to you about that horse before and just continues to be a really productive sire. Talk again a little bit about Bustin' Stones.
You know, Seth, I refer to him as a blue-collar stallion, and New York has been very competitive now with the purse structure and the breeding program that we have, and you're seeing more and more stallions that would basically be standing in Kentucky or and moving these horses to New York. So it is very competitive. Last year he had 50 mares bred to him, and you know, all of his horses, he's thrown one graded stakes winner, but they all try. I think if anybody looks at them, they make money. You know, at the end of the day, they make money the hard way, and they hang around. They've been staying sound for the most part. So
yeah, like I said, you had Stone Supplier, some other folks, Cards of Stone, Stones of Navarone is floating around out there. If you see that stone, you automatically look up in the sire line, and you're likely to see Bustin' Stones. And we've talked to you before, but for folks who maybe haven't seen the interviews we've done before, Stone, a lot of the Stone references in the names of your horses, and that goes back to your business. Talk a little bit about that.
I'm in the quarry business, and I don't know. I saved that name, Bustin' Stones, for a horse that I thought had some potential, and I guess even my friends and the family, everybody throws names at me no matter where I am, or you're out to dinner and somebody comes up with a stone name of some sort. So, and he's going to have one running with Todd in the Wood Memorial next week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my favorite stone name was Stoneless. That was kind of clever. Yeah.
As we gelded him that week. That was the assistant trainer and his wife came up with that at dinner.
And Bustin' Stone's a homebred for you, too. That had to be really special. Talk a little bit about the dam. She's a sure thing. How did you wind up with her?
I made a bad claim out in California, and I think I ran her once. I claimed her for $50,000, and I basically had nothing to do with her at that point, so I had a season in City Zip, and I bred her like 3 years in a row because I did have the season, and the middle one was busting, so it really worked out for me. But I don't take any credit. It was kind of a mistake, so a good mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk a little bit, again, you're a guy, you're a claiming kind of guy, and that's probably how you got into the game, I assume. But then how does it transition, and how much more special is it when you're breeding your own horses?
You know, I like both aspects of the game. I do like to breed more, but I like to, when you claim, Seth, you always try to outsmart someone else. And it's the same thing if they claim off of you. And, you know, if you're claiming, you got to know a trainer's pattern. And if you're breeding, you got to know pedigree. So I guess it's interesting. You know, I see like even a lot of trainers that look at Todd. He won with Mike Rapoli. They claimed a horse, and he won the Charlestown Million. You know, and I think everybody gets enthused doing something different in this game because it's so competitive.
And talk a little. I know you're a player as well. You're a bettor. You do very well at that. Does that play into the claiming game? Are you looking for a horse the same way you look for a winner handicapping wise, or are you looking for different things, and do you rely more on maybe the trainer when pointing out horses to look at on the claiming side?
It's a little different angle when you're looking at a horse race to bet than it is to claim. It's actually completely different. I've seen people that are very good gamblers, and they'll come up to me and say, "What about this horse?" Well, it really doesn't work that way. It actually works just the opposite. But there are a lot of astute gamblers that do very well betting on horses, and I don't think they would do very well at claiming horses. There's just a fine line that's completely different in that.
That's interesting, and I assume part of that is maybe if you're looking and saying, "Hey, this horse can win today," what you're looking for in the claiming game is maybe the horse that's maybe flown a little under the radar that you think you can win with.
And you want to take that horse and advance him. You know, say he's in a 25-35 claimer. You want to take a horse that you can basically look at it make an allowance horse out of him, or hopefully a stake horse. I mean, excuse me, most of the stake races that I won were with claiming horses. I go back. I took a nice mare Shvedal off of Bob Baffert and won a graded stake with her, and it was the first year we ran for $750,000. It was the first time that they had the California, the claiming. It was out there, and I'll never forget it. Went out there with Bruce. We spent the week out there, and they drew like a week early.
With Sunshine Millions.
Yeah, Sunshine Millions.
Yeah.
And I drew the 12 hole. I go on a mile on the 16th. I wanted to die, but she ran third that day. But it's interesting.
Yeah, and again, it's you do very well. You're very astute at it, and you play the claiming game not only on the East Coast, but you claim from the West Coast. That's always really interesting to see you pick up horses out in Southern California and move them east. But you have a couple of interesting horses out in Southern California that you picked up and are now going to be heading to Keeneland.
Two in particular. There was a horse I claimed with AC Avila, and I've been doing pretty well with him. Claimed the horse for $16,000, and he won a $58,000 allowance race 3 weeks ago, and ran a 94 buyer, and it was his third win since we had acquired him.
That's Do You Know Something?
That is, and we're going to run him in the at Keeneland on the 16th in the Ben Ali. It's a $200,000 graded stake, and then we took another horse out there, first-time starter, off of one more round. We took it off of Doug O'Neill, and he got beat by Baffert's horse. He lost by a nose. I was out there to see the race, and we're going to run him into Lexington. It was his first time going 2 turns. He run a big number, so we're going to throw him to the wolves, so to
nice.
speak.
Well, we'll be rooting for those two, certainly. You and I were talking when you sat down, because, of course, those of us up in New York and in the Albany area, we always like to root for the Roddy Valente horses. We circle your name in the program. We'll mention you when you have a horse in, and we're talking on the Handicappers Report. And a couple of weeks ago, we did that, and we thought, hey, misprint. It was a Rudy Rodriguez-trained Roddy Valente runner. Talk a little bit about that.
I had called Bruce to take this horse, and he said, Rod, I'm taking something out of the race. So I was always good friends with Rudy, and actually Rudy's asked me, he said, send me a couple of them busting stones over here. And I don't like to offend Bruce, so I play it close to the vest. I think I've been loyal with him, and he's been loyal to me, and we've had a great relationship. But that's how I ended up with that horse, with Rudy. And he finished second last time. I think Rudy took the blinkers off him, and I think he's sitting on a win next start.
So that is, you're not indicating a shift. You and Bruce are still right in the thick of things, but it's just part of the technicalities that are part of the game. And as you say, friends with Rudy.
He's family. He's family. Seth.
Right.
He'd have to fire me before I fire him.
I like that. Talk a little bit about how you got into the game. How you became a racing fan to begin with.
I had a very, very good friend of mine, John Michaels, and he called me like on the eve of opening day at Saratoga about 23 years ago, and he says, Rod, I'd like to claim a horse. I says, okay, it sounds good to me. I had a presence in the harness game, but I really didn't understand the thoroughbred game at all, Seth, at all, to be very honest with you. I was came from a family that had a farm, and they had harness horses. So, anyways, we weren't eligible to claim, but I didn't even know this. So I went up there, and I'm trying to hustle a trainer, and how do I go about getting into it? And I think I wore John down after 3 weeks. I'm still looking. He says, I don't want to claim a horse anymore. So I ended up getting involved with Dennis Brida, and I found a baby down in it was Ellis Park, believe it or not, and it was a New York bred. So I says, we want to fly down and see the horse. He says, yeah. He says, I'll get on the plane with you. So we go down there, and Seth, you wouldn't believe it. The horse worked like 59 and 2, and they wanted like, I think it was $40,000 for him, which back then,
yeah.
$40,000 was $4 million to me. So I said, would you guys compromise? I bought the horse for $38,000. I figured I'd get him home for a couple of thousand. And he worked so good that day. I says, and even Brida said to me, he says, I don't understand how come we're getting this horse so cheap. It wasn't cheap to me, but he says in thoroughbred terms, it was cheap. So get the horse home, and Richie worked the horse out for me, and he worked a bullet. And I didn't even know what a bullet meant, you know what I mean? They had to show me that little dot.
That's right. That's not on the harness side.
Not at all. So the horse works 46 and 3 up at Saratoga, and I'll never forget it. Dennis had asked me, he says, well, there was only the last week of racing left. This is very interesting. So he says, do you want to run him in an open race? I said, you know, I didn't even know what he was talking about. It's like, I said, I'll run him on the moon. I just want to run. So Richie works the horse. He works him in 46 and 3, and he's like the bullet, 1 out of 63. So I said to Richie, I said, what's this bullet? You know, what's this that they're referring? He says, Rod, it's the fastest workout of the day. They give you a little bullet there. I said, okay. He said to me, I don't care who we run against, they're going to have to beat this little colt. So it's the last Saturday to meet. I got my whole family up there, and he opens up at like 1 to 9. You know, I have like half of a following. You know, all my friends are probably half of them are all degenerate gamblers and family members. So everybody's betting this horse. I'm 1 to 9 with a state bred, and you know, open up the form that morning, and here's one in there for 600, another one in there for 8,000, and I got my 38,000 Ellis Park special. Anyways, long story short, he turns for home, and he's on the lead, and he got beat a neck right on the wire. And I mean, I regardless, I felt like I was hooked at that point. There was nothing like running a horse at Saratoga, and they put the hook like right in me. And Richie rode him back down at Belmont. 3 weeks later, he won by 7 in State Bred Company, and actually he went on and he ran in a stake or 2 after that. But he turned out. But that's how I got in the game. A long story, but it was
and as they say, the rest is history. Grade 1 winner, a homebred in Bustin' Stones, stakes winner last summer at Saratoga with Hot Stones. Keep looking for those stone horses out there, and you're almost sure to see Roddy Valente either as the owner or the breeder, and Bustin' Stones on top. Roddy, it's been great to see you down here. As I say, it's like old home week down here. Saratoga to Gulfstream for the big day, Florida Derby Day. Roddy, thanks for visiting us.
Good luck with your orange tonight.
I appreciate
Good
that.
seeing you,
Thanks
Seth.
a lot. All right, Roddy Valente. We'll head to Todd Pletcher. A little tape piece with Todd we did yesterday, in fact. We caught him right after he won the third race yesterday. He's going to talk off the tracks. Who's in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. Azar is in the Spiral this afternoon, and much more from Todd